What up, Marsh Pod? We are recording this on a Monday afternoon. The SimWorld Hoops schedule has officially dropped, but we got a nice little sprinkling of games here over the weekend. We have tip-off week announced, holidays that have been announced, some rivalries, and some other notable matchups. So we're just going to go through each of them and talk about some of the games that I'm most interested in. Let's start with tip-off week, where I think we've got some absolute intrigue. Arizona and Alabama, a rematch of last season's Sweet 16. Alabama got the win 87-80. DJ Childs, Khalil Erickson going back at it. This is going to be a very, very testy matchup. It's going to be high profile, and to get that as one of the two broadcasts, of course, Duke LSU with our other one, it's a great kickoff to the season. Wednesday, Marquette against Miami, defending champions going up against it. I think that's a huge matchup as well. No shock there. Excited to see what a new Kevon Jackson looks like in this group. Who's going to be the starting piece? This is a big season, obviously, for Miami. It's difficult to repeat, but you've got pretty much the entire roster back, and that's a lot of what helped UConn get to the championship game for a second straight season last year, because they had a lot of those returning pieces. So for Miami to get back into this thing, this is a huge moment for them, where I really do buy into the hype of Miami, right? You buy into the hype of who this team is, buying into Jermaine McLemore and Kevon Jackson as a really dynamic duo, plus Dominic Bianco, plus Edgar Fernandez. This is a team that last season really just attacked 100 points pretty much every single game. They averaged, I think, 98. I would be shocked if we don't. I don't know about 100. That's a lot. That was historic. But this team is going to be scoring points. And so we get that first one. But to me, the biggest matchup is Davidson against Kentucky. Davidson is entering unique territory. Davidson, in my opinion, is now a championship contender, or at least a championship conversation piece. You don't go out and get a top 10 player and some other good recruits and suddenly not enter the championship fray. They fast-tracked the Gonzaga approach, where Gonzaga was a mid-major. They played well. They never really got top recruits, but they finally stepped up. Once they started getting those recruits, and on a consistent basis, they became a team that you expected to see in the Sweet 16, in the Elite Eight, and on the fringes or in the middle of a potential championship. Davidson is at that point. You don't get a top 10 recruit and think, okay, it's time to just be decent, right? We are now at SimWorld U. Once you get to college, you don't stop worrying about it completely, but the desire to be a contender and winning games starts to supersede developing. And you get a class like this, which Davidson has, which I would put among the best in the country. This is serious, and the American Conference is going to be a very, very difficult conference with the addition of Davidson, with the addition of Jackson State, with the internal development of SMU, with the returns of Houston and Memphis. This is going to be a very, very difficult division and conference, and Davidson is getting their first crack at a team that, if I'm Kentucky, it's championship or bust again, because you're returning Jamison Johnson, you're returning Glory Tate. This is not going to be an easy matchup. I think we're going to see what Nick Hugo can do underneath against Jamison Johnson. I think this is going to be a reminder game for a lot of folks of just how good Kentucky is, but I love that we're getting that here on opening week. Next one up is the holiday matchups. Here's one thing that I love off the bat. I love that we've got SimWorld U is accepting and promoting lesser programs. That's the first thing, because you're going to get Davidson and Maryland on Black Friday. You're getting UNLV in Houston on New Year's Day. You're getting New Mexico against Michigan State on MLK Day. And then what I think will be the greatest tradition in SimWorld U is going to be Notre Dame on St. Patrick's Day. That I would expect to become an annual tradition. It's what I've been told it's going to be, and I am absolutely ecstatic for that. Every single year, the Irish on the most Irish day of the year. But I love that we're getting these types of matchups. You now don't have to go to Michigan State, Kentucky, Duke, USC to be inserted into primetime games. I talked about this on SimWorld today a couple weeks ago. We are in the SWBA. You just get this rehash every single season. It's Lakers, it's Warriors, it's Suns, it's Celtics, it's Knicks, it's Sixers. You pretty much know 50% of the Christmas Day matchups, and it's never veered away from that. Not anymore. Not anymore in SimWorld U. You're going to get New Mexico. You are in a primetime spot if you're Ireland early in New Mexico. You're Dayton. You get a huge matchup on the day after Thanksgiving. You get Maryland, UNLV. These are not programs that traditionally would be put into the limelight. Now they are. And that is a promotion of that. That means you do not have to go to a blue blood to be seen in national television. You are getting that opportunity at SimWorld U, and I love it. Rivalries, what are the big ones? These are coming out at great times. I'm glad that we're getting a little sprinkle of these pretty much every single month. January 29th is going to be a huge one, obviously, with UNC Duke, UCLA, a couple of beefing matchups with USC and Arizona. Overall, it's just happy to get rivalry matchups back, right? A lot of them are going to be taking place later in the season because it's conference rivalries, but it is massive, massive, massive basketball ahead. Louisville, Kentucky in November is our one kind of outlier to that, but it's exciting. So let's go to the last piece, which is notable matchups. What stands out? December 4th stands out. UConn at Miami. National championship game rematch. That's going to be huge. UConn is trying to now rehash for a third straight season a team that can be a championship contender. I don't know that they live up to that right now. Miami, meanwhile, is bringing back so much. We just talked about them. So much of what they were before. That's going to be huge. Meanwhile, Oklahoma, Texas, January 23rd, the Red River rivalry. Take it to the hardcore. Suno Chapa, Arthur Lattimore. This is huge. This is a huge Big 12 matchup between two teams that have championship aspirations. They're teams that probably project better next season than this season. A year of development, considering now the 2-year rule is really going to benefit the teams that are in year 2 of that cycle. So the Kentuckys of the world, the Dukes of the world that are bringing back a lot, the Miamis of the world that are bringing back a lot of their starters from a season ago. That's going to be beneficial for them, but I still think Oklahoma and Texas have a shot to make noise. You get Xavier and Creighton. Those were two teams in the Big East a season ago who were dynamic. That's February 5th. Talked about January 29th with the rivalry match between UNC Duke. We're also getting on that day Memphis, Lake Darius Outlaw, Jackson State, and D. Woodley. That's got intrigue. That's going to be a high-profile matchup. Maryland going up against Villanova, I think, is not the most interesting, but a very fascinating one to me. But again, it all goes back to December 4th. It all goes back to the championship rematch. By that time, we're going to have 3 months, October, November. We're going to have 2 months worth of action where we're going to know exactly who these teams are, or a pretty good idea of them. And we could be looking at a spot where Miami is rolling, and if UConn hasn't found new pieces to bring into the mix, it could be a little bit of a dangerous matchup for them taking on the reigning national champs. All right, also, we had the announcement of the SimWorld Prep tournaments. We still don't know what day everything is going on, but we do know that all 18 tournaments have been announced. I'm very excited for the Layup Invitation in Hawaii. I'm glad that we're getting a big international pitch. But with this out, it's worth kind of explaining yet again the schedule and how it's all going to go down, the point system, how teams are going to advance. It's worth a deep dive, so we're going to do a high-level deep dive, very simplistic one. So, teams will win or earn 1 point for every win they get during the round-robin phase of each tournament. So, what does that mean? That means 6 teams in a tournament, for the most part, all but one. We're not going to worry about that. 6 teams in a tournament. From there, you're getting 2 groups of 3, and then at the top 2 teams in each group will advance to a single elimination tournament. So you're going to play 2 games in the group stage, which means if you go 2-0, you get 2 points. If you go 1-1, you get 1 point. If you go 0-2, you get 0 points. From there, you move on in the elimination phase. You will earn 2 points for every single championship you win, every tournament. So if you go 2-0 in group stage and then you win the tournament, it's 4 points. If you go 1-1 in group stage and you win the tournament, it's 3 points. It's math, right? We're figuring it out. All right. From there, that's how you get points. So you have the max you can get is 4 points in a tournament. The least, obviously, is 0, but you could end up with 1. You could end up with 2 if you advance out of the group stage but lose in the semifinals. It's still only 2 points. You don't get any benefit for making it into the championship game. That's how we're going to determine all of our schedules, okay? Or the standings. That's how we figure it out. From there, you get all the points over the course of the season. Each team is playing in 4 regular season tournaments. So that gives you an added bonus, or really just levels the playing field of how many points you can earn during the season. So you could, let's say you win 4 tournaments. right off the bat. That's 16, or that's 8 points purely off of tournament wins. You could win no tournaments and still make it into the playoffs because it's all based on standings. The tiebreaker is determined on the number of semifinals that a team advances to. Okay, so if two teams finish with 18 points, which would be impressive, Team A has 4 semifinal games played, Team B has played in 2, Team A would advance. That matters because why? Why? Because if you are a team that plays terribly all season long, and then you make it into one championship game, and you win one championship, and that gets you up ahead of another team that has made it into the championship game 4 times but never won any, well, that team that's made it to 4 championships to year 0 or until you won it year 1 is probably the better basketball team on a whole. So you don't want to overweight a championship and kind of misconstrue what the standings are. The perfect example, if you follow it, is NASCAR. NASCAR puts a lot of emphasis on winning games, but then they have a playoff, which kind of makes the entire regular season pointless because you just win to get in. You win a race, you get into the playoff. To me, that seems kind of bogus. What if you've just been racing, you finish with 2nd, 3rd place finishes? It still means you've been a better racer, in this case, better basketball team. You're going to get into the last dance. That's it. 1 point for every round-robin stage win. 2 points for every tournament win. Whoever ends up with the most points, those top 18 teams, or excuse me, top 24 teams, they move on to a single elimination tournament, also known as the Last Dance. All right, that's our pod. Catch you on the other side. We'll see. Labor Day coming up next Monday. We'll see if we're dropping something.